The peasant girl prayed for a miracle, and the Count appeared, bringing the love she never expected. Before we begin this beautiful period romance story, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love knowing where you're joining me from. The fields of Provence lay cracked beneath the dying sun. Dust clung to everything, the vines, the stones, the people who still worked the earth, even though hope had long left. Elise Duval knelt before a small wooden altar beside her mother's cottage. Her hands were rough from labor, but she held them together as if they could still draw heaven's mercy down to the soil. "Please," she whispered, her voice thin as a thread. "Just one drop of rain, one sign that you still see us." The wind stirred, dry and warm. Nothing answered. Not the trees, not the sky. Her mother coughed weakly from inside the cottage, and Elise rose to help her drink a little water from the well. It tasted of earth and metal. "You pray too much," her mother murmured, smiling faintly. "The Lord already knows we are starving." Elise smoothed the blanket over her. "If he knows, he'll send help." The older woman chuckled softly. "Maybe he will send a miracle with wings." Elise forced a smile. She wanted to believe it. But the vineyards had withered to grey sticks, and the children in the village cried at night for bread. Miracles felt far away. Still, every evening when the sky burned gold, she knelt before her altar, a small candle flickering against the wind, and she prayed. That evening, after tending the fields until her back ached, she lingered outside to watch the last light fade. The air smelled of dust and smoke from the baker's dying fire. Somewhere, a dog barked. Everything else was silent. "Tomorrow will be better," she whispered to no one. From the road beyond the olive trees came the faint sound of hooves. She frowned. No one traveled at dusk anymore. The king's men patrolled by day, and by night the roads belonged to thieves. The sound grew louder, then a shout, a harsh crash, and silence. Her heart jumped. She hesitated only a moment before grabbing her lantern and running toward the road. The path wound between dry fields. The sound had come from the bend near the old well. She lifted the light high, her breath quick, and saw a dark shape on the ground. A man lay there. His clothes were torn, his hands scraped, and one boot hung from his foot. A horse stood nearby, trembling, reins dragging in the dirt. "Sir?" Elise's voice shook. "Can you hear me?" No answer. She crouched, brushing dirt from his face. He was young, perhaps 30, with pale skin under the dust and blood. His shirt, though stained, was of fine fabric. Around his neck glimmered a small chain. "Oh, dear heaven," she murmured. "Who are you?" She pressed a hand to his chest. His heart beat faintly, like a drum beneath layers of silence. Alive. Barely. The horse stamped the ground nervously. She looked around. Empty road. No movement. No sound. But the soft creak of saddle leather. "You can't stay here," she whispered, half to herself. "They'll find you." It took all her strength to pull his arm over her shoulder. He groaned softly but didn't wake. Step by step, she dragged him through the weeds toward her cottage. When she reached the door, her mother called weakly from inside. "Elise, what is it?" "Someone's hurt," she gasped. "I found him on the road." Her mother tried to sit up. "Oh, child, that's not our trouble. If the guards find him here—" "They won't," Elise said quickly. "He'll die if we leave him." The older woman sighed, but said no more. Elise spread an old blanket on the floor near the hearth and laid the stranger down. The lamplight revealed his face more clearly. Strong jaw, dark hair, lashes too long for a man. He looked noble, out of place in a peasant's home. She cleaned his wounds with water from the basin, murmuring to calm herself, "You'll be all right, whoever you are." As she bandaged a deep cut on his arm, he stirred. His lips moved. "Water," he whispered. She lifted a cup to his mouth. He drank greedily, coughed, and tried to speak again. "Where am I?" "In Saint-Rémy," she answered. "My name is Elise. You were on the road. I found you." He blinked, disoriented. "The road, ambush. The coach—" His words faded. "Don't talk now." She laid a hand on his shoulder. "You're safe." His eyes drifted closed again. All night she kept the fire burning, watching his breathing. Once, in his sleep, he murmured something that sounded like a prayer, or perhaps a name. She leaned closer but couldn't understand. At dawn, she stepped outside to wash her face. The sky was pale grey, the first light spreading across the hills. Somewhere in the distance a rooster crowed. The earth smelled the same, dry and hopeless. Yet inside her chest, something stirred. Maybe this was her miracle. Not rain, not gold, but a man sent to her doorstep by fate. When she went back inside, her mother sat awake, looking worried. "The villagers will talk," she said quietly. "You can't hide a stranger in this house." "He's hurt," Elise replied. "And if I tell them, they'll hand him to the guards before asking his name. I'll keep him until he can walk." Her mother sighed. "You have your father's heart. Too kind for this world." The man slept through the morning. When he finally woke, the light from the small window fell across his face. He turned his head and saw her sitting beside him, sewing a torn sleeve. "You're awake," she said softly. "How do you feel?" He tried to sit up. Pain crossed his face. "Like I've been trampled." "That sounds about right." She handed him a piece of bread. "Eat." Slowly. He obeyed, studying her as he chewed. Her dress was simple, patched in places. A few curls escaped her braid, catching the sunlight. "Who are you?" he asked after a moment. "Just Elise," she said. "A farmer's daughter." "And you?" He hesitated. "No one important." She smiled a little. "Then we are two nobodies." He looked away, as if her words struck something inside him. "I suppose we are." Days passed. He healed slowly, his strength returning. He gave his name as Adrian, though he never said his family name. The villagers, curious as they were, saw little of him. Elise told them he was a cousin from a distant town. At night, he lay awake listening to her humming while she mended clothes or stirred the soup. The melody carried through the small cottage like a prayer without words. One evening, as she poured him water, he said, "You shouldn't have risked helping me. You don't know who I am." "I know you needed help," she answered simply. "And if I were a criminal?" She looked at him, eyes steady. "Then God must have thought you deserved one more chance." He stared at her, unsure whether to laugh or thank her. "You speak of faith as if it were a friend." "It is," she said, "sometimes the only one that listens." He smiled faintly. "Then I envy you." Outside, thunder rumbled faintly, far away. She lifted her head, surprised. "Did you hear that?" "Rain?" he asked. "Perhaps," but no drops fell. Only silence followed. Later that night, while she checked his bandages, he murmured in a fevered dream, "Montclair, they'll come. They mustn't find me." Elise froze. The name sounded noble, like something whispered in church when people spoke of lords and estates. She sat back, watching his face. His features were too fine, his hands too smooth for a man of labor. "Montclair," she repeated under her breath. "Who are you really, monsieur?" Outside, the air had grown heavy, the scent of dust sharper. A single flash of lightning lit the horizon, followed by a roll of thunder closer than before. Elise crossed herself and whispered, "Perhaps this is my miracle after all." She turned to look at him one last time. The storm wind rattled the shutters. He stirred, his lips parting. "Elise." She leaned forward, startled. "You know my name." But he didn't answer. He had slipped back into sleep. The candle flickered, its flame bending toward the window as if drawn by something unseen. She stood, went to the door, and opened it just a little. The first raindrop in months struck her hand. Behind her, the man groaned softly. She looked at him again, heart hammering. His eyes were closed, his face calm, but she knew now he was no ordinary traveler. Then, through the open window, lightning tore across the sky, bright and sudden, and the thunder followed with a force that shook the cottage. Elise turned back toward the man lying on her floor, just as the heavens broke open, and the long-awaited rain began to fall. The rain poured through the night, drumming softly on the roof. Elise barely slept. Every time the thunder rolled, she turned to make sure the stranger still breathed. His fever had returned, a thin sweat covering his brow. By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving the air sweet and new. For the first time in months, the ground smelled alive. She stepped outside and let the wet earth cling to her feet. Maybe her prayers had been heard after all. Inside, the man stirred. "Where am I?" he murmured. "In my home," she said, kneeling beside him. "You fainted on the road. You've been here 2 nights." He blinked slowly. 2 nights. His gaze wandered around the small cottage, taking in the plain walls and the rough wooden table. "You saved me." I couldn't leave you, she said. What happened to you? He hesitated as if deciding how much truth to give. There was an attack. My coach was ambushed near the river. I don't know who survived. Thieves? Perhaps, he said quietly. Or men sent for another reason. Her brow furrowed. Are they looking for you? He looked away. If they are, I don't want them to find me. His voice carried a weight that made her uneasy. Still, she nodded. Then rest. You're safe here. Her mother appeared from the other room, leaning on the doorframe. Safe, she said with a dry laugh. Not if he brings danger to our door. Mother, Elise warned softly. The old woman coughed and shook her head. I'm too tired to argue, child. Just remember, kindness doesn't feed a family. She turned back to her bed, leaving silence behind. The man watched Elise's face. She's right to worry. I should go once I can stand. You can't even lift your head without wincing, she said. You'll leave when you can walk without falling. He gave a small smile. You're very sure of yourself. Someone has to be, she replied. Over the next few days, she cared for him as she would for a wounded bird. She cooked thin soup, washed his wounds, and changed his bandages while pretending not to notice the fine stitching on his shirt or the gold chain he kept hidden under his collar. Each day he spoke a little more. He told her his name was Adrian and that he came from the north, though he avoided saying which town. When she asked what he did, he answered only, I served someone important once. She laughed. You sound like a priest confessing half his sins. And you, he said, sound like someone who expects miracles. Maybe I do, she replied. But sometimes they arrive looking nothing like I imagined. He studied her a long moment, as if the words touched him more than they should have. One afternoon she found him trying to stand. He leaned on the table for balance, grimacing. You shouldn't be up yet, she said. I can't lie there forever, he muttered. My legs will forget me. Then walk slowly, she said, stepping closer. Here, take my arm. He hesitated, then accepted it. Their hands met briefly, and the touch startled them both. He steadied himself, looking down at her. You're not afraid of me? She met his gaze. Should I be? He didn't answer, but something in his eyes shifted. An old pride, wounded and uncertain. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, he sat by the hearth while she mended a torn shirt. You live alone? He asked. With my mother. My father died 2 winters ago. I'm sorry. She shrugged. Everyone has lost someone. It's what makes us pray harder. He looked at her hands, moving quickly through the fabric. Do you believe prayer changes things? She paused. I believe it changes people, and people can change things. He nodded slowly as if storing that thought away. The next morning, a man from the village stopped by to trade milk for bread. His name was Luke, a kind-faced farmer with a talkative tongue. He peered past Elise toward the cottage interior. Who's the stranger? He asked. Saw his horse near your fence. Fine animal for a cousin. Elise forced a smile. He's family from Avignon. Fell from his horse. I'm helping him recover. Luke raised a brow. Family, you say? Well, you'd best keep him quiet. The bailiff's men are asking questions about travelers on the main road. They say someone important went missing. Her stomach tightened. Missing? Some noble from Paris. His carriage was attacked. Folks say he's dead, but the guards still search. Dangerous times. She thanked him, sent him off with a loaf and shut the door quickly. Adrian was sitting up, listening. So, he said quietly, they're still looking for me. Her pulse quickened. Then you are someone important. He didn't deny it. It seems your kindness has placed you in danger. I don't regret helping you, she said. He looked at her with disbelief. You should. People have been punished for less. Let them come, she said, though her voice trembled. They'll find only a man too weak to ride. Elise, he said softly, you don't understand the reach of the people I've angered. She crossed her arms. Then tell me. He met her eyes, then shook his head. Not yet. Not until I know I can trust that no one else will pay for my mistakes. Do you think I'd betray you? No, he admitted. That's what frightens me. The room grew quiet. The only sound was the crackle of the fire and the soft breath of wind outside. That night he dreamed restlessly, muttering names she didn't recognize, Charles, Montclair, Versailles, words from a world she had only heard of in stories. When morning came, he woke to find her already at the table, grinding wheat for bread. "I spoke in my sleep," he said. "A little, and?" She glanced over her shoulder. "You talk like someone who's seen too many palaces." He laughed softly. "Maybe I have." She smiled. "I guessed that before you said a word." He frowned, half amused. "And what gave me away?" "The way you thank me for every bowl of soup as if it's a banquet," she said. "The way you look at the sky when you step outside, like it owes you something." That silenced him. He didn't answer, but his gaze dropped, and for the first time she saw shame in it. By afternoon, he insisted on helping her carry water from the well. His steps were slow, his breath shallow, but he managed. As they walked back, she said, "You're improving, thanks to your patience. Patience is all a farmer has." He chuckled. "I was never patient." "Then maybe that's why you ended up on my road," she said, half teasing. He looked at her, a spark of humor in his eyes. "If that's true, I don't regret it." She pretended not to hear, though her heart gave a quick flutter. That evening, clouds gathered again. The fields shimmered with the promise of more rain. Elise stood outside, her arms crossed, watching the horizon. Adrian joined her at the doorway. "The air smells different," he said. "Alive," she replied. "Like the world's been forgiven." He looked at her profile in the fading light. "You make everything sound holy," she laughed. "You think too highly of me, monsieur." "I think not highly enough." Their eyes met for a moment, brief but charged. Then her mother called from inside, breaking the silence. By the next day, word spread that riders had been seen near the southern fields, men in dark coats asking questions. Elise's neighbor mentioned it at the well, her tone hushed. "Soldiers," she said. "They're looking for a man wounded and traveling alone." Elise felt her throat tighten. She hurried home, heart racing. Adrian was outside trying to repair the fence with a borrowed hammer. He looked up when she approached. "They're here," she said under her breath. "Soldiers, asking questions." He set the hammer down slowly. "Then my time here is ending. You can't leave yet," she said. "You're still weak. If they find me, they'll punish anyone who helped me. That means you. I'll tell them nothing." He reached for her hand but stopped himself. "You don't owe me this, Elise." "Maybe I do," she said softly. "Maybe this was meant to happen." He looked into her eyes, as if searching for a reason strong enough to believe in her faith. "You think God sent me to your doorstep?" "I asked for a miracle," she said. "You arrived the next day." He let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. Then he has a strange sense of humor. The following morning, she woke to the sound of voices near the path. Two men on horseback rode slowly past the fence, their uniforms damp from the rain. "Stay in sight," she whispered to Adrian. He watched from the shadow of the window as the soldiers stopped to speak with Luke at the edge of the field. The farmer pointed down the road, shaking his head, and the men moved on. When they were gone, Elise turned back toward Adrian. "You see, no one will betray you. Don't be so certain," he said quietly. "Fear can turn good men cruel." "Then we'll pray they stay brave," she replied. He smiled faintly. "You and your prayers. They work better than swords." He laughed under his breath. "You might be right." That night, he sat by the fire again, silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "When I leave, if I can, promise me you won't follow." She frowned. "Why would I?" "Because you have a dangerous heart," he said. "You care too easily." She looked away, embarrassed. "Then it's my curse." "It's your strength," he murmured. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. She turned toward him. "What will you do when you can travel?" "I don't know," he said. "Find out who betrayed me, or maybe disappear." "Disappear?" He nodded. "Start again somewhere no one knows my name." Her eyes softened. "You could start here." He stared at her, surprised. "You'd keep a stranger like me?" "You're not a stranger anymore." He didn't answer. The fire popped, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then from outside, a horse whinnied sharply. Elise froze. She went to the window and saw a lantern moving through the trees beyond the fence. A man on horseback paused, looking straight toward her cottage. "Someone's out there," she whispered. Adrian rose unsteadily, his face pale. "They found me." She turned back to him, her voice trembling. "What will you do?" He looked toward the door, every muscle tense. "Pray," he said quietly, "just like you taught me." The light outside stopped, unmoving, watching their house from the darkness. The light outside did not move for a long time. Elise held her breath, clutching the edge of the curtain. The horse stamped once, snorted, and the lantern swung slightly as the rider turned his head toward the road. Then slowly he rode away. She didn't speak until the sound of hooves vanished into the distance. "He's gone," she whispered. Adrian let out a breath he'd been holding. "For now. Do you think he saw you? If he did, we'll know soon enough." He sank onto the bench, rubbing his temple. "It was foolish to stay here. You were in no condition to travel," she said. "Even now you can barely stand." He looked at her, weary but grateful. "You keep risking yourself for me. Why?" She hesitated. "Because you were alone. Because everyone deserves someone who doesn't walk away." He smiled faintly. "That's dangerous kindness." "Maybe," she said, "but I'm used to danger that comes from living, not from caring." The morning came grey and heavy. Elise went to the village market to trade bread for grain, her head covered by a shawl. People whispered more than usual. A merchant muttered that soldiers had passed through the next town, questioning everyone about a nobleman who'd vanished. She pretended not to hear and returned home quickly. Inside, Adrian was sitting by the window, staring at the rain-slick fields. "You shouldn't have gone alone," he said when she entered. "People would wonder if I didn't," she replied. "We must look ordinary." He nodded, though tension never left his face. "How long can you hide me?" "As long as it takes." He gave a short laugh. "You sound very sure." "I've had practice hiding hunger, worry, and sadness," she said lightly. "Hiding a man is easier." For the first time in days, he laughed. A quiet, unguarded sound. "You have a way of making even fear feel simple." "I only make it sound that way," she said. That evening, while her mother rested, Elise brought a bowl of broth to him. He thanked her, took a sip, and said, "You pray every night. I hear you." She glanced up, surprised. "Does it bother you?" "No," he said. "It comforts me. It's been a long time since anyone prayed near me." "You don't believe?" "I used to," he said softly. "Before the court taught me otherwise." "The court?" He hesitated. "You deserve honesty, but I cannot tell you everything yet. You'd be safer not knowing." "I decide what makes me safe," she said. "But I'll wait. For now." He looked at her gratefully, as though her patience cost her something precious. Days turned into weeks. His strength returned. He helped her in the garden, though his clumsy hands made her laugh. He learned how to carry water without spilling half of it, how to patch a fence, and how to speak like someone who didn't command servants. One afternoon, as they worked side by side pulling weeds, he said, "When I'm well enough, I'll leave. I can't bring trouble to your door." She straightened, brushing dirt from her skirt. "Do you want to leave?" He looked up, squinting against the sunlight. "Wanting doesn't matter. Then maybe you should stay until you want to." He smiled at her boldness. "You're not afraid to tell me what to do." "I'm not afraid of much," she said. "Life taught me that fear is a waste of time." That night, they shared bread and cheese by the fire. Her mother had gone to bed early, leaving them in a quiet that felt strange but not uncomfortable. Adrian watched the flames flicker across her face. "I owe you my life, Elise." "You owe me nothing," she said. "If anything, you owe God for sending you here alive." He chuckled softly. "Then I'll thank him, though he's probably wondering what to do with me now." She smiled. "Perhaps he's letting you rest before showing you why you survived." He tilted his head. "You speak as though you're certain there's a reason for everything." "There has to be," she said. "Otherwise, how could we bear the world?" He stared at her for a moment, thoughtful, then said, "If faith makes you strong, then maybe I should borrow some." She handed him the loaf. "Then start by eating more bread. You'll need strength for believing." He laughed again, the sound softer this time, and for the first moment since she'd found him, he looked at peace. But peace never lasted long. A few days later, while Elise was hanging laundry behind the house, she noticed Luke walking up the path. He waved, smiling as usual, but his eyes flicked toward the cottage door. "Morning," he said. "Your cousin still resting?" "Yes," she said quickly. "He's better now." Luke nodded slowly. "Strange thing. A traveller stopped by the tavern yesterday. Said he saw someone matching your cousin's description near the river. Fine clothes, injured, heading this way." Her pulse quickened. "People talk too much." "Maybe," Luke said, "but the bailiff's men might come again. You know how they get when they smell reward money." She forced a laugh. "My cousin, isn't worth a copper coin. Luke's gaze lingered a second too long. Then he shrugged. Be careful, Elise. Some secrets don't stay buried. After he left, she went inside and told Adrian everything. He listened quietly, his jaw tightening. So now they know what direction I came from, he said. It's only a matter of time. You could hide in the forest, she suggested. They'll search there first, he said, and if they find me, they'll question you. I won't allow that. You can't just walk away half-healed. He looked at her steadily. I may not have a choice. That night he sat awake long after she'd gone to her room. The fire burned low, casting long shadows across the walls. When Elise returned to check on him, she found him tracing the gold chain around his neck. What's on it? She asked quietly. He hesitated, then showed her. A small crest, finely carved. She didn't recognize it, but it looked royal. Adrian, she whispered. Who are you really? He looked into the fire, his voice low. Once, I was the Count of Montclair, envoy to the king, trusted by some, hated by many. I was sent south with letters meant for Marseille, but someone wanted me gone before I could deliver them. Her heart pounded. A count? He nodded once. A title that means little now. Whoever ordered the attack believes I'm dead. And perhaps I should stay that way. She took a step back, stunned. If the guards find out, they'll hang me as a traitor or silence you for knowing too much, he said. That's why I didn't tell you. She swallowed hard. You should have trusted me. He met her eyes. I did. That's the problem. Silence hung between them, filled only by the crackle of wood. Finally, Elise said, Then you'll stay here, Count or not, until you can decide what to do. He looked at her as if her stubbornness defied all reason, and perhaps saved him. You truly believe you can hide me from the king's men? I've hidden hope through 3 years of drought, she said. I can hide you too, he smiled faintly. You're impossible. Maybe that's why the rain finally came, she said. The following day they worked together in the vineyard. Adrian's hands were clumsy but eager. When he tried to lift a full basket, he nearly toppled it, and she laughed so hard she had to grab the handle herself. You were not made for labor, she teased. Then teach me, he said, grinning. I'll learn. Lesson 1, she said. Don't crush the grapes before they're picked. He bowed slightly. Understood, mademoiselle. Their laughter carried across the quiet field. It was the first sound of joy those vines had heard in months. That night, while she sang softly by the fire, he watched her without speaking. When she finished, he said, You make the silence bearable, she smiled. You make it noisy with all your questions. Then I'll ask one more. Why haven't you told anyone who I am? She looked at him seriously. Because sometimes people deserve to start again. He nodded slowly, as if the idea both comforted and frightened him. Later, when the house slept, Elise woke to a noise outside, a crunch of boots on wet soil. She crept to the window and peered through the slats. A lantern moved between the trees. Her heart hammered. She shook Adrian's shoulder. Someone's here. He was awake in an instant, eyes alert. How many? 1, maybe 2. He reached for his coat, wincing as he stood. Stay inside. You can't face them. I won't let them take you, he said. Hide, she whispered. Please. But before either could move, there was a sharp knock at the door. Open up, a voice called. By order of the bailiff. Her mother stirred in the next room, coughing. Elise pressed a finger to her lips, motioning Adrian to the small storage loft above the hearth. He climbed quickly, muffling his breath. She opened the door a crack. 2 men stood outside, one holding a lantern, the other a parchment. We're looking for a man, the taller one said. Traveling alone, injured. I've seen no one, she said calmly. The man lifted the lantern, scanning the room. You live alone here? With my mother. He stepped closer. Strange. We were told a stranger's horse was seen near your fence. Many pass through, she replied. Horses wander. The man squinted at her, then lowered the lantern. If you see anything, report it. A fugitive's worth good coin. I'll remember, she said. They turned and left. She shut the door, trembling. Adrian dropped silently from the loft. They'll be back, he said. I know. He looked at her, his voice firm. If they come again, tell them I escaped. Don't risk yourself. I won't lie that way, she said. He stepped closer, eyes burning. You don't understand. If they catch me here, you'll pay the price. Then let them, she whispered. I'd rather suffer for kindness than live with fear. He stared at her for a long moment, unable to speak. Then he turned away, fists clenched. Outside, a dog barked in the distance. The night felt suddenly colder. From beyond the vineyard, a figure appeared. Luke again, standing half-hidden among the olive trees, watching the cottage in silence. Luke stood motionless among the olive trees, his face half-hidden by shadow. The faint glow from Elise's window flickered across his eyes. She froze, gripping the edge of the curtain. He's there, she whispered. Adrian moved beside her quietly. Who? Luke, the farmer. He's watching the house. Adrian's jaw tightened. Then he knows. Not for certain, she said, though her voice wavered. Maybe he's only curious. No one stands in the dark out of curiosity, Adrian muttered. He pulled the window closed. I should go, tonight. You can't, she said. They'll be waiting on the road. He faced her. If I stay, you'll lose everything, your mother, your home. I can't let that happen. Leaving now would kill you faster, she said firmly. You're still weak. Let me think. He wanted to argue, but she stepped closer, her eyes steady. You told me once that God hadn't answered you in a long time. Maybe this is his way of teaching you to trust again. Trust me. The words silenced him. He nodded slowly, almost unwillingly. She peeked out the window again, but Luke was gone. Only the trees swayed under the night breeze. By morning, Luke appeared at her door as if nothing had happened. He carried a basket of eggs. A gift, he said, smiling. Elise forced a calm tone. You're kind. He leaned against the doorway. Kind, yes, but also concerned. Some men came through the village at dawn. Soldiers again, asking questions. Adrian listened from inside, unseen. Luke lowered his voice. You should be careful, Elise. They say the man they're hunting is dangerous. A noble fallen from the king's grace. Anyone caught helping him will answer for it. She forced a laugh. You think I'm hiding someone like that? He looked at her too long. You always had too much heart. Sometimes that's a curse. She straightened. And sometimes it's the only thing that keeps us human. Luke studied her, then shrugged. If you need help, you know where to find me. He walked away, leaving the basket at her feet. When he was gone, Adrian stepped from behind the curtain. He suspects. I know, she said, but suspicion isn't proof. He frowned. You think that will protect you when they come? Her voice rose. Then what do you suggest, Adrian? That I turn you in? He looked at her, guilt flickering across his face. I would understand if you did. Then you understand nothing about me. She turned away, tears of anger in her eyes. He took a step toward her, but stopped. I didn't mean to insult you. You only think everyone chooses self-preservation over compassion, she said. That may be true in your world, but not in mine. Silence stretched between them until her mother coughed from the other room. Elise wiped her eyes quickly. I'll bring her tea. Later that day, Adrien worked outside, repairing the fence again. The sun burned hot, and he removed his coat, revealing the faint scar along his arm. Elise came to bring him water. Does it hurt? She asked. Only when I think, he said with a smile. You think too much then? Perhaps. But I keep wondering why someone like you would risk so much for me. She looked at him, serious now. Because everyone in this world is worth saving once. Maybe you've forgotten that. Her words seemed to strike deep. He set down the tools and stared at the horizon. In my life, people were used, not saved. Loyalty was traded for gold, honor for comfort. You speak of things we lost long ago. Then maybe it's time you found them again. He looked back at her. You make it sound so easy. It isn't, she said softly. But it's possible. That evening, a storm gathered again, thick and sudden. As thunder rolled across the hills, Adrien sat by the fire, staring at the door. I remember now, he said suddenly. Remember what? The attack. We were traveling toward Marseille with sealed letters for the governor. There were 5 of us, only I survived. Someone within the court arranged it. Someone powerful? She asked. Powerful enough to erase me from the king's favor. He gave a bitter laugh. If the soldiers find me, they'll call me a traitor. They'll say I sold the letters to Spain. Did you? He turned sharply. Do you think I would? She didn't flinch. I don't know you well enough to say what you'd do. He exhaled slowly. Fair enough. But no, Elise, I did not. My only sin was serving a king who values silence more than truth. Her gaze softened. Then truth is what we'll protect. At that, he smiled faintly. You say we, as if we're already allies. We are, she said, even if the world disagrees. For a few days, things were calm again. The rain nourished the fields and the villagers began to smile for the first time in months. Adrienne worked alongside Elise, quietly blending into her small world. But word of the soldiers returned. 2 men had been seen near the church, showing sketches of a nobleman's face. One child claimed to recognize the eyes. That night, Adrienne found Elise kneeling at her altar again. The small candlelight glowed against her features. You pray for me, he said softly. I pray for courage, she replied. Mine and yours. He sat beside her. I never asked anyone to care about me. You didn't have to, she said. Sometimes God decides before we do. He smiled faintly. If he truly sent you, he has a strange way of showing mercy. She laughed softly. Maybe he enjoys irony. A knock interrupted them. Both froze. It wasn't harsh like a soldier's. It was light, hesitant. Elise opened the door to find Luke again, rain dripping from his hat. Forgive me, he said. I shouldn't have come so late. What is it? She asked, heart pounding. Luke's eyes darted past her into the dim cottage. The soldiers will return at dawn. They're searching every home. You must hide whoever you're keeping here. She didn't answer. Luke stepped closer, lowering his voice. I'm not blind, Elise. I saw him that night through the window. If they find him, you'll hang beside him. Adrienne appeared behind her before she could respond. Then I should thank you, monsieur, for your concern. Luke stiffened. So it's true. Say nothing, Elise pleaded. Please. Luke's jaw clenched. Do you think silence comes without cost? If they learn, I knew. I'll take the blame, she said. He shook his head. You can't protect him forever. Adrienne stepped forward. He's right. I should leave. No, Elise said, gripping his sleeve. If you run, they'll chase you. If you stay, they'll search. We'll think of something. Luke looked between them, then sighed heavily. Hide him in the chapel crypt. It's old. No one goes there but Father Armand. I'll speak to him. Elise's eyes filled with relief. Thank you, Luke. Don't thank me, he said. If they find out, it's both our heads. By the time he left, thunder rolled again in the distance. At dawn, Elise guided Adrienne through the wet fields toward the small chapel on the hill. Father Armand waited by the door, a lantern in hand. His face was grave but kind. The Lord watches over those who show mercy, he said quietly. Follow me. He led them through a narrow passage to the crypt below. It smelled of earth and candle wax. You'll be safe here, the priest said. But not for long. They'll search even holy ground if ordered. Adrienne nodded. I only need a few days. Enough to plan. Elise turned to him. I'll bring food and news when I can. He took her hand gently. I've done enough. I decide that, she said. For 2 days she visited the crypt at dusk, bringing bread and water. They spoke in whispers, of rain, of the vineyards, of things ordinary to disguise how afraid they were. But on the 3rd evening, when she reached the chapel, the door was slightly open. Inside, Father Armand knelt before the altar, his expression pale. What happened? She whispered. The soldiers came, he said. They'll return tonight. Someone told them about the crypt. Her heart stopped. Luke, the priest looked down, silent. Without another word, Elise ran down the steps to warn Adrienne. He was already standing, having heard the commotion above. They know, she said breathlessly. You must go. He grabbed her shoulders. And you? I'll lead them away. You'll be caught. Then so be it. He shook his head. I won't let you throw your life away. Then come, she said. Through the woods to the old mill. It's abandoned. They'll search everywhere but there. They moved quickly through the passage, emerging into the wet dusk. The fields shimmered silver under the fading light. Behind them, the bell from the chapel tower began to toll. 3 slow, heavy strikes. Adrienne stopped, turning toward the sound. They're here already. Elise gripped his hand. Run. They started across the narrow bridge, the air thick with the smell of rain. Hoofbeats echoed in the distance, growing louder with every heartbeat. Adrienne pulled her closer. If they catch us, they won't, she said. Elise, listen to me. Quiet, she hissed. Someone's coming. Through the mist, a single lantern appeared on the path ahead. A man's voice called out sharply, "By order of the Crown, stop where you are." The command echoed through the fog, sharp and final. Elise froze mid-step, her hand still gripping Adrian's arm. The lantern ahead bobbed closer, its light cutting through the mist like a blade. "Stay behind me," Adrian whispered. "You can't fight them," she hissed back. "I won't, but I can stall them." Before she could stop him, he stepped forward. The mud sucked at his boots as he raised his hands. "We mean no harm." The lantern light revealed a single soldier, older than most, his uniform soaked and his face weary. He lowered his pistol slightly when he saw Elise. "A woman," he muttered. "You shouldn't be out here." "We were looking for a lost goat," Elise said quickly. "The fog confused us." The soldier frowned. "Strange hour for herding." Adrian kept his voice steady. "She speaks the truth. We're returning home now." The soldier studied him. His eyes narrowed, lingering on the cut of Adrian's coat, the fine stitching, the accent that slipped through each word. "Where's your home, traveller?" "Near the vineyards," Adrian answered calmly. "We keep to ourselves." For a long moment, no one spoke. The soldier sighed, lowering the lantern. "Go then, and keep off this road. There are men hunting someone dangerous." "We will," Adrian said. As they turned away, the soldier added, "If you see him, the noble who betrayed the king, you'd best stay silent. They say he brings ruin wherever he hides." Adrian didn't look back. Elise could feel the tension in his arm as they walked into the darkness. Only when the lantern's glow faded did he exhale. "You lied well," she said quietly. "I learned from you," he replied. They reached the old mill an hour later, breathless and drenched. The structure leaned against the hillside, its wheel long broken. Inside, dust and straw covered the floor, but it was dry. "This will do," Elise said, dropping her shawl. Adrian looked around, scanning the cracks where the moonlight slipped through. "You've risked everything for me again." "I've already told you," she said. "I don't regret it." He moved closer. "You should." She shook her head. "You're alive. That's all that matters." He stared at her, silent. Then softly, "You have more courage than all the nobles I've ever met." She smiled faintly. "Maybe courage comes easier when you have nothing to lose." "Don't say that," he said. "You have everything. Your home, your mother, your faith. And you," she said before she could stop herself. He blinked, caught off guard. "Me." She stepped back quickly. "Forget I said that." But he didn't. He watched her as she built a small fire from the dry wood near the wall. The flames lit her face, and the warmth between them grew in the silence. Outside, the wind rose, rattling the loose boards. Adrian spoke at last. "I keep remembering that night on the road. The flash of blades, the sound of hooves. I thought I was dead, and then I woke to your voice." "You were lucky," she said softly. "No," he replied. "I was blessed." She busied herself with the fire, unwilling to meet his gaze. "We should rest. Tomorrow we'll need to find food." "Elise," he said, "look at me." She turned reluctantly. "If I hadn't met you, I would still believe the world was nothing but cruelty," he said. "You changed that." Her breath caught. "You give me too much credit." "Not enough." He smiled faintly. "You found faith in a field of dust. I found it in you." The silence stretched until her mother's voice echoed in her mind, warning her that kindness could ruin a woman. She stepped away, shaking her head. "We can't talk like this." "Why not?" "Because you're a count and I'm a farmer's daughter," she said. "In your world, that's not conversation. It's scandal." He laughed softly. "Then let it be scandal. I've lived too long by other people's rules." She stared at him, torn between fear and something brighter. "You'll ruin yourself." "I already have," he said. "But for the first time, it feels worth it." They fell quiet again, the fire crackling softly. When sleep finally came, it was uneasy, filled with dreams of running and voices calling their names. At dawn, the mist returned. Elise woke to find Adrian standing at the doorway, staring at the fields below. "They'll search the villages today," he said. "We should move." "Where?" "There's an old monastery near the river, abandoned since the plague. We could hide there until I decide what to do." "And after that?" He hesitated. "After that, I'll leave France. Start again somewhere I'm not hunted." "And me?" she asked quietly. He looked at her. "You'll go home, where you belong." She shook her head. My home isn't safe anymore. They'll blame me when they find the chapel empty. He frowned. Then you'll come with me. Her heart skipped. You don't mean that. I do, he said. You've given me life twice now. I won't abandon you to their punishment. She studied his face. And what would we be, Adrian? A runaway noble and a peasant girl. You'd lose everything. I've already lost it, he said. Let me keep one thing that still feels true. Before she could answer, a sound cut through the air, the distant echo of hooves. Adrian stiffened. They're coming this way. They packed quickly, gathering what little they had. He helped her climb out the back window, leading her toward the woods. Branches whipped at their clothes as they ran downhill toward the river. Faster, he urged. Behind them, shouts rang out. By the time they reached the riverbank, the water was high from the recent rain. The current roared. We can't cross, Elise said. We must, he said. If we follow the edge, they'll see our tracks. He grabbed a fallen branch, testing the depth. The water reached his knees, then his waist. It's safe enough. Hold on to me. She clung to his arm as they waded across. The current tugged at her skirt, almost pulling her under. He held her firmly until they stumbled onto the opposite bank, gasping for breath. From the far side they could hear the soldiers shouting, searching the trees. They'll find the mill, she said, and then the trail. He nodded. We'll reach the monastery before nightfall. After that, they'll have to turn back. They walked for hours, the forest thick and damp. By late afternoon, the ruined monastery appeared through the trees, its stone walls half collapsed, vines curling over the arches. Inside, the air was cool and quiet. Birds nested in the rafters, and the floor was covered in fallen leaves. It's perfect, Elise said. Adrian smiled. Strange place for salvation, isn't it? Maybe not, she said. You found me on a road. I found peace in ruins. God seems to like irony. He laughed softly, then looked at her. Do you think he forgives people like me? Yes, she said, if they ask. And if they don't know how? She stepped closer. Then someone asks for them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then slowly he reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. The touch lingered, fragile as breath. He whispered, I wish I'd met you before the world taught me to lie. And I wish I'd known you before it taught me to fear, she said. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in days, spilling light through the broken roof. Dust danced in the air like golden snow. They stood there, silent, the warmth wrapping around them. He finally said, When I leave France, come with me. Her heart leapt. You don't mean that. I do. You said yourself you have no home left. Let me give you one. She shook her head, tears in her eyes. You don't know what you're asking. Your world and mine don't mix. Then we'll make a new one. Her voice trembled. You'll regret it. I already regret every moment before I met you, he said. She turned away, hiding her face. Please don't say such things. I can't help it, he said quietly. You made me remember what it feels like to be alive. For a moment, all sound faded but the birds above them. Then, somewhere in the forest below, a dog barked. Another answered. Adrian's expression changed. They've found our trail. Elise's eyes widened. No, they can't have. He looked toward the trees, listening. Voices carried faintly on the wind. They're close, he said. What do we do? He grabbed her hand. We run again, but this time we run together. The barking grew louder, echoing against the stone walls. She turned toward the door, her heart hammering, as a shout rose from the woods, one word clear above the rest. Montclair? Adrian froze at the sound of his own name echoing through the trees. It wasn't shouted in rage, but in certainty. Someone who knew exactly who they were hunting. Elise grabbed his sleeve, panic in her eyes. They've found us. He pulled her behind a fallen column. Quiet. Listen. The forest filled with movement. Boots breaking branches, the murmur of men, the low growl of dogs. A command rang out, firm and confident. Spread out! Search the ruins! Adrian's face went pale. They have hounds. We can't hide for long. Elise's breath came fast. Then we'll run. He shook his head. No. They'll catch us before the fields. Then what do we do? He didn't answer right away. His gaze swept the broken walls, the crumbled altar, the roof half open to the sky. We'll buy time, he said finally. Long enough for them to think we're gone. She touched his arm. "Adrian, please, don't do anything reckless." "Everything I've done since meeting you has been reckless." He smiled faintly, then turned toward the door. "Stay here," he said. "If they find me, they won't look for you." "I'm not hiding while they take you," she said fiercely. He looked at her, mud-streaked, trembling, but unbroken. "You're the bravest woman I've ever met." "And you're the most stubborn man I've ever saved," she replied. "We're even." The sound of the dogs drew closer. Adrian peered through the crack in the doorway. 5 soldiers entered the clearing, led by a tall man with a scar across his cheek. He carried no weapon drawn, only authority in his stride. "Search inside," the officer ordered. "He's here. I can smell the smoke." Adrian stepped back. "They'll find the fire. Then we'll make them think it's old," Elise whispered. She grabbed a handful of ash, scattering it across the floor. "Sit. Pretend to sleep. If they see fear, they'll know." He hesitated, then obeyed. The door creaked open. 2 soldiers entered, lanterns raised. One looked around, frowning. "It's just peasants," he muttered. The other gestured toward Adrian. "He fits the description." "Too thin," the first said. "And what noble hides with a woman in rags?" The officer entered, his boots echoing on the stone. "Show me his face." Elise stepped forward. "He's my husband," she said quickly. "He's sick. We came here for shelter." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Your husband, And what is his name?" She forced a smile. Jean Duval." Adrien stayed silent, lowering his head. The officer studied him for a long moment, then turned away. "If you're lying, girl, it will cost you dearly." "I have no reason to lie," she said. The officer nodded once to his men. "Search the rest of the place." They moved away, overturning crates and kicking through debris. Adrian risked a glance up at the officer, and for a split second, recognition flashed between them. "Montclair," the officer whispered. Adrian's blood ran cold. The man smiled faintly. "You were harder to kill than I thought," Elise gasped. "You—" "Quiet," Adrian said sharply. The officer's smile grew. "Still the king's loyal servant? Or perhaps you found a new cause in the arms of a peasant girl?" Adrian rose slowly, his body tense. "You arranged the attack on the road." "Of course I did," the man said casually. "The crown needed a scapegoat, and I offered one. You should thank me. Your death brought peace for the realm. You call treachery peace?" "I call survival peace," the officer said. "You should have learned that at court." Elise stepped between them. "Please," she said. "We don't want trouble." The officer glanced at her, amused. "You've been keeping noble company, little one. Tell me, did he promise you a title, or just a ruined life?" "Leave her out of this," Adrian said. "Oh, I intend to," the man said. "The gallows are only for men like you." One of the soldiers returned. "Captain, we found nothing else." "Good," the officer said, never taking his eyes off Adrian. "Bind him." Elise grabbed Adrian's arm. "No, he's done nothing wrong." The captain nodded toward her. "Take her too. The court loves a pretty witness." Adrian stepped forward. "If you touch her, I'll—" The captain cut him off. "You'll do nothing. You're already dead, Montclair." The soldiers moved in, seizing him. Elise screamed and tried to pull them away, but one pushed her aside. She fell hard, her palms scraping the stone. "Adrian!" she cried. He struggled, shouting her name, but a soldier struck him in the stomach, forcing him to his knees. The captain leaned close. "You could have lived quietly if you'd stayed dead, but some men never learn." Adrian spat blood, glaring up at him. "You'll answer for this." The captain smiled thinly. "I already have my pardon." He motioned for the soldiers to move. "Bring him. The king wants proof that justice still works." As they dragged Adrian away, Elise crawled after them. "Please," she begged, "take me too." The captain paused at the door. "You'll see him soon enough, girl. Pray that your faith is worth more than his honor." They left her there, trembling, the sound of hooves fading into the distance. For a long time she couldn't move. Then, with shaking hands, she rose and looked around the ruins. On the floor lay Adrian's gold chain, torn during the struggle. She picked it up, closing her fingers tightly around it. Father Armand's words came back to her. "The Lord watches over those who show mercy." She took a deep breath. "Then watch over him now." By nightfall she reached the village. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with dirt, but she didn't care. She went straight to the church. Father Armand met her at the door, startled. "Child, what happened?" "They took him," she said. "The soldiers. A man called him Montclair. He's being taken to Avignon." The priest crossed himself. "That name? He was a count once. This is dangerous, Elise. I don't care. I'm going after him." He caught her arm. "You'll be killed before you reach the city." "Then I'll die trying." Seeing her resolve, the priest sighed deeply. "There may be another way. The captain who arrested him, Renard, has friends in the court, but also enemies. I know one. A woman named Claire Duval, widow of a judge. She owes me a favor." "Where is she?" "In Avignon. I'll write her a letter. If she believes you, she may help." "Then I'll go tonight," Elise said. The priest looked at her torn hands. "You'll need disguise and courage in equal measure." "I have both," she said. He smiled sadly. "You have more faith than most saints." By dawn, Elise was on the road, wearing her father's old cloak. The journey took 2 days. She walked by night, hid by day, and prayed every hour. When she finally reached Avignon, the city walls loomed like a fortress of judgment. She found Madame Duval's house near the cathedral, a tall building with green shutters and a guarded gate. The servant at the door frowned at her appearance. "I must speak to Madame," Elise said. "It's about Count Adrien de Montclair." The name changed everything. Within minutes, she was ushered into a candle-lit parlor. A tall woman in mourning black entered, elegant but kind-eyed. "You know Montclair?" Madame Duval asked. "He's my friend," Elise said. "He's been taken by Captain Renard. He'll be executed for a crime he didn't commit." Madame Duval studied her. "And who are you?" "No one," Elise said. "Just someone who believes in him." The woman smiled faintly. "Then you're already someone rare." She paced the room. "Renard acts on orders from the crown, but even kings bend to reputation. If the Count's name is cleared before the trial, they'll have to release him." "How?" "Renard forged letters once before. Accusations against a minister. I still have proof. It's locked in the archives of the old courthouse." "Then we'll get it," Elise said. Madame Duval raised a brow. "We?" "I can't stand by while he dies." The older woman regarded her with admiration. "Very well. But if we're caught, we share his fate." That night, dressed in servants' clothes, they slipped through the back gate of the courthouse. The corridors were empty except for the echo of their footsteps. Madame Duval led her to a small office filled with papers and seals. "Here," she whispered, unlocking a chest. Inside, stacks of documents lay bound with red ribbon. She searched quickly until she found one marked with Renard's signature. "This is it," she said. "Proof of his deceit." Footsteps sounded in the hall. Madame Duval shoved the parchment into Elise's hands. "Go. Take it to the cathedral. Find Father Armand's contact there, Father Michel. He'll know what to do. But what about you?" "I'll delay them." Before Elise could protest, Madame Duval pushed her toward the back door. Elise ran, clutching the document to her chest. She reached the narrow alley behind the courthouse, just as a shout erupted inside. Guards spilled into the courtyard, lanterns flaring. She sprinted through the streets, turning corner after corner until she reached the cathedral steps. Her lungs burned. "Father Michel," she gasped, bursting through the doors. An elderly priest looked up from prayer. "Yes, I need your help," she said. "Please. Adrien de Montclair is innocent." He saw the seal and his eyes widened. "Where did you get this?" "Madame Duval," she said. Before she could finish, the cathedral doors slammed open. Soldiers flooded in, Captain Renard at their head. "There she is," he barked. "Seize her." Elise turned toward the altar, desperate. "Father, please." The priest took the document, hiding it beneath his robe, then faced Renard calmly. "She is under sanctuary," Renard smirked. "Even sanctuary has limits." "She brings proof of your betrayal," the priest said. Renard's smile faded. "You dare accuse me?" "I do," the priest said. The captain stepped forward, his eyes cold. "Then you'll both answer to the king." He raised his hand, signaling his men forward. Elise clutched the edge of the altar, her heart pounding, as Renard's shadow fell across the marble floor. Renard's boots echoed on the marble as he advanced toward the altar. Elise backed away until her hands touched the cold stone. The soldiers spread out behind him, blocking every exit. Father Michel stood between them, his small frame straight and fearless. "You have no right to take her," the priest said. Renard laughed softly. "The crown gives me every right." "She carries proof of your lies," Father Michel said. "You forged letters, condemned an innocent man." Renard struck him across the face before he could finish. The sound cracked through the vast hall. Elise gasped and rushed forward, but a soldier seized her arm. Renard leaned close to the priest. "Proof means nothing when no one lives to read it." "Then you truly have no soul," Father Michel whispered. Renard turned to the soldiers. "Take them both. The Count will hang at dawn, and this girl will follow." Elise struggled. "No, please listen to me. I have what you fear, the truth." Renard smiled coldly. "Then it dies with you." He motioned to the guards, but before they could drag her away, a voice thundered from the doorway. "That's enough." Everyone turned. Adrien stood there unbound, battered but alive, a soldier's cloak thrown over his shoulders. "Montclair," Renard said, startled. "Impossible." "Not impossible," Adrien said. "You should have searched your prisons better." The soldiers hesitated. Renard's eyes flicked between Adrien and Elise. "You were on your knees when I left you." "Then you should have finished the job," Adrien said. Elise stared at him, disbelief and relief colliding in her chest. "How did you—" "Later," he said. "Give him the document." Father Michel pulled the sealed parchment from beneath his robe and held it up. "This proves Renard's treason. It bears the royal seal, falsified in his own hand." Renard's composure cracked. "Lies! He's the traitor!" Adrien stepped forward. "Then let the king decide, but you'll not silence anyone tonight." Renard drew his sword. "I think I will." The soldiers tensed, waiting for an order. Adrien faced him calmly. "You always hid behind men braver than yourself, Renard. Try facing one alone." Renard sneered. "You're unarmed." Adrien raised his hands. "Then you have nothing to fear." For a long, charged moment, neither moved. The firelight flickered across the walls, shadows of saints dancing between them. Then Renard lunged. Adrien sidestepped, grabbing the captain's wrist. The blade clattered to the floor, skidding beneath a pew. Renard swung again with his fist, striking Adrien across the jaw, but Adrien drove his shoulder into him, knocking him back. The soldiers hesitated, unsure whether to interfere. Elise darted toward the fallen sword. "Don't!" Adrien shouted, but Renard saw her move. He shoved Adrien aside and grabbed her wrist. "So this is your miracle, Montclair? A peasant girl who'll die for you?" "Let her go," Adrien roared. Renard twisted her arm, forcing her to drop the blade. "I think I'll let her hang first." Father Michel stepped forward. "Enough. This is holy ground." Renard backhanded him again, sending him sprawling. Adrien lunged, slamming into Renard and dragging him to the floor. They struggled among the scattered pews, boots scraping against marble. The soldiers shouted, unsure whom to obey. "Hold your ground," Adrien barked. "Any man who serves the crown must hear the truth before raising his weapon." His authority made them pause. Renard cursed, shoving him off. "You think they'll believe you? The king already condemned you." Adrien stood, breathing hard. "Then he'll see his mistake." He turned to the soldiers. "You know me. I bled for France while men like him sold its honor. You swore to serve the kingdom, not his corruption." The captain's men exchanged uneasy glances. One lowered his musket. Renard saw the shift. "Cowards! He lies to save himself." "He speaks the truth," Elise said, voice steady despite her fear. "I saw the papers. I saw the seal. Renard forged them to frame him." The silence that followed was thick as the air before a storm. Finally, one soldier stepped forward. "If she speaks true, we can't take her or him without trial." Renard's eyes blazed. "You'll disobey me?" "You disobeyed the crown," Adrien said, "and your own men know it." Renard lunged for his weapon, but a musket butt struck his arm before he reached it. One of his soldiers pinned him to the ground. Adrien stared down at him. "For the lives you've ruined, may justice be merciful where I cannot be." Renard spat blood. "You think the king will thank you? He needs villains like me more than heroes like you." "Then he's not the man I once served," Adrien said quietly. He turned to Elise. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears brimming. "I thought I'd lost you." He smiled faintly. "It would take more than chains to keep me from you." Father Michel, still dazed, managed to stand. We must send word to the governor at once. This evidence must reach him before dawn. Adrienne nodded. Then I'll take it myself. But Elise stepped forward. No, you'll be recognized before you cross the bridge. Let me go instead. It's too dangerous. So was saving you, she said. We're past danger now. Adrienne hesitated, then handed her the parchment. Go with Father Michel. I'll stay until they secure Renard. She took the document, clutching it tightly. You'll be here when I return? I swear it. She turned and ran into the night, the priest following. The streets were nearly empty, the moon pale above the rooftops. They moved quickly through the alleys toward the governor's manor. When they reached the courtyard, 2 guards barred the gate. The governor sleeps, one said. Come back at dawn. Father Michel stepped forward. This cannot wait. We bear proof of treason against the crown. The guards exchanged glances. Show it. Elise unfolded the parchment. The royal seal glimmered faintly in the torchlight. One guard took it, scanned the contents, and his eyes widened. By God, he whispered. If this is real. It is, Father Michel said. Summon your master. Moments later, the governor himself appeared, wrapped in a robe. What madness brings you here at this hour? The guard handed him the paper. The governor read it quickly, his expression hardening. Renard, he muttered. I should have known. He looked up at Elise. And the count. Alive, she said. Held at the cathedral. Then he must be protected. Fetch my carriage, the governor ordered. We'll go at once. By the time they returned to the church, the first light of dawn had begun to color the sky. The soldiers still guarded the doors. Inside, Adrian stood beside Renard, who was bound and silent now, hatred burning in his eyes. The governor strode forward. Release the count. Adrian bowed slightly. You have my gratitude, sir. Save it for later, the governor said. There will be questions. Renard sneered. You think this changes anything? I only did what was required. The king will thank me for killing a man too righteous for his own good. The governor glared at him. You'll have your chance to defend that in chains. He turned to Adrian. Your name will be cleared, but the court will want its explanation. I'll give it, Adrian said. Every word of it. Elise stepped forward, exhausted but relieved. It's over, she whispered. He looked at her, eyes softening. Not yet, but soon. Renard laughed bitterly. You think they'll let you walk free? The king's pride won't allow it. Adrian ignored him, taking Elise's hand. Come with me. When this ends, I won't face another dawn without you. She smiled faintly, tears slipping down her cheeks. You won't have to. The governor gestured to his men. Take them both to my estate. They'll be safer there until the trial. As they stepped outside, the sky flared with the first true light of morning. The city, which had seemed so cold and endless before, now glowed in shades of gold. For a moment the world felt still. Then, from behind them, a harsh voice broke the calm. Governor! One of the soldiers came running, breathless. Renard escaped. Adrian spun around, disbelief flashing across his face. What? He broke free, took a horse from the stables. He's heading toward the river. The governor cursed. He'll try to flee the city. Adrian tightened his grip on Elise's hand. No. He'll try to finish what he started. The distant thunder of hooves echoed again, growing louder with every second. The sound of hooves grew louder until it filled the narrow streets like thunder. Adrian didn't wait for orders. He grabbed a horse from the governor's stable, swung into the saddle, and looked back at Elise. Stay here, he said. She shook her head. You can't face him alone. I must. And if he finds me instead? He hesitated, jaw tight. Then we both go. The governor stepped forward. Montclair, wait. My men will handle this. There's no time, Adrian said. He knows where to strike. Before anyone could stop him, he spurred the horse and disappeared through the gate. Elise turned to the governor. Please, let me go after him. You'd only slow him down, the man said. I won't. I know where Renard will go. The governor frowned. Where? The bridge, she said. It's the only way out of the city. He cursed under his breath. Take another horse then, but be quick. Within moments she was riding through the dawn mist, the cold air biting at her face. The streets were nearly empty, save for the echo of her own hooves. In the distance, she could already hear shouting, guards calling to one another, the clang of weapons. When she reached the riverbank, the bridge came into view. 2 riders were already there. Renard, cloak whipping in the wind, urged his horse toward the center, while Adrian closed the distance behind him. "Renard!" Adrian shouted. The traitor turned in the saddle, his sword gleaming in the morning light. "You should have stayed dead, Montclair!" Adrian's horse lunged forward. The clash of metal rang out as their blades met. Sparks flew. Elise reined in her horse at the end of the bridge, her heart pounding. She couldn't move closer. One wrong step would spook the animals or send both men into the river. "Adrian!" she cried. He didn't answer. Renard swung hard, forcing Adrian back. The planks creaked beneath them. "You'll never clear your name," Renard spat. "They need men like me to keep the kingdom clean." Adrian parried, breath harsh. "Clean? You've drowned it in lies." Renard lunged again. Adrian ducked, twisting his sword to catch the sunlight. For a moment it blinded Renard. Adrian struck, slicing the buckle of his opponent's belt. Renard stumbled, barely keeping his seat. Elise gasped, "Stop this, please!" Neither listened. Renard recovered, rage twisting his face. "You'll die here and she'll follow." Adrian's eyes darkened. "Touch her and you'll beg for death." They collided again. The horses neighed, hooves striking wood. A plank cracked, dropping into the rushing water below. "Adrien!" Elise shouted. "The bridge!" He heard her too late. The structure shuddered as one of the main supports gave way. Adrian's horse reared, throwing him to the ground. Renard's steed bolted, leaving its rider clinging to the edge. Adrian staggered up, blood running down his temple. He could have let Renard fall. Instead, he grabbed his arm. "Don't make me regret this," Adrian said through clenched teeth. Renard's eyes met his. For a moment, something human flickered there. Then he pulled a dagger from his belt and swung upward. Elise screamed. Adrian caught his wrist, twisting hard. The dagger clattered to the bridge. Renard lost his grip. He fell backward, vanishing into the white roar of the river. The silence that followed was deafening. Adrian stood there, chest heaving, staring at the place where his enemy had disappeared. Elise ran to him, tears streaming. "It's over," she whispered. He nodded slowly. It had to be. They left the bridge behind as the governor's men arrived. None of them spoke until they reached the safety of the estate again. Inside, the governor waited. "Renard? Gone," Adrian said. The governor exhaled. "Then the king will have his peace. You're free, Count." Adrian looked at Elise. "Then I owe that freedom to her." The governor smiled faintly. "France owes her more than she knows." For the first time in months, the weight on Adrian's shoulders seemed to lift. He turned to Elise. "We can leave now. You've done enough for a lifetime." She shook her head. "Not enough. You still have to face the court." He sighed. "Do you think I care about titles anymore?" "You care about honor," she said. "That's why I helped you." He smiled. "And what will you do once I'm no longer your cause?" "I'll find another reason to pray," she said softly. He reached for her hand. "Then let me be that reason." Before she could answer, a servant entered. "My lord, the king's courier has arrived. He brings word from Paris." Adrian exchanged a look with the governor. "Show him in." The courier, dusty from the road, bowed deeply. "By order of His Majesty, Count Adrien de Montclair is cleared of all charges. Captain Renard's crimes have been confirmed. The Crown offers its gratitude." Adrian blinked. "Gratitude?" The courier nodded. "And your reinstatement at court, along with an invitation to return." Elise stiffened. Adrian saw the change in her eyes, the fear that this was the moment their paths would divide. He looked at the letter again, then tore it cleanly in two. The courier gasped. "My lord," Adrian smiled faintly, "tell the king my service has ended. My loyalty belongs elsewhere." When the man left, Elise stared at him. "You refused him." "I did," he said simply, "because I've finally found something the crown can't command." She shook her head. "You gave up everything." "I gained more," he said. "A reason to live." She lowered her gaze, voice trembling. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly," he said. "I'm done running from who I am and from what I feel." He took her hand again, slowly, as if afraid she might pull away. She didn't. "Elise," he said quietly, "when I thought I would die, your face was all I saw. You prayed for a miracle. Maybe this is it." Her lips parted, but no words came. The governor, standing nearby, smiled discreetly. You both deserve rest. Stay here until the roads are safe. After that, you may go wherever you wish. Adrian bowed slightly. Thank you. When they were alone, Elise sank into a chair, exhausted. I don't know what happens now. We start over, Adrian said. Not as Count and Peasant, but as two people who survived. She looked at him, eyes shining. Do you really believe we can? He nodded. If faith could move mountains, yours already has. The room grew quiet, filled with the scent of rain through the open windows. For a while, neither spoke. Then Adrian said, We should leave France. Go somewhere the court can't reach us. Where? Anywhere, he said. Italy, Spain, or back to the vineyards. I just want peace. She smiled faintly. Then peace we'll find. They rose before dawn the next day, traveling south through the countryside. For the first time, no one hunted them. The sky was clear, the roads silent except for birdsong. At a small inn near the border, they stopped to rest. The innkeeper, unaware of who they were, offered them bread and wine. Adrian laughed when Elise spilled hers. After everything, he said, You're still clumsy. And you're still proud, she teased. He reached across the table, brushing her hand. Then we make a fine pair. Her smile faltered slightly. What will people say? That I'm mad, he said. And they'd be right. She laughed, but tears welled in her eyes. I don't deserve this, Adrian. Yes, you do. More than anyone. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the hills gold. He stood and offered his hand. Come, let's walk before the light fades. They stepped outside together. The air was warm, carrying the smell of grass and distant vineyards. This is what I prayed for, she said softly. Not riches, just this. He looked at her, his voice low. Then your prayer was stronger than mine. As they walked, they saw the ruins of an old chapel at the hill's edge. A small bell still hung above it, swaying in the breeze. Elise stopped. It looks like the one in our village. Then let's ring it, Adrian said, for the end of one life and the start of another. She reached up, pulling the rope. The bell's sound rolled across the fields, deep and clear. Birds scattered into the sky. Adrian smiled, watching her. You brought me back to life, Elise. You saved yourself, she said. Maybe, he whispered, but I never would have tried without you. They stood there, side by side, the last light fading behind the hills. Then, from far down the road, a lone rider appeared, galloping hard, waving a banner marked with the royal seal. Adrian's smile vanished. The king's messenger. The horseman slowed as he approached, shouting over the wind. Count de Montclair, orders from the crown. Elise's heart clenched. What do they want now? Adrian stepped forward, his face unreadable. We'll soon find out. The rider halted his horse, breathing hard. Dust covered his coat, and sweat dripped down his brow. He bowed quickly to Adrian. My lord Count de Montclair, he said between breaths. I've ridden for 3 days with a message sealed by His Majesty himself. Adrian took the scroll, his expression calm but wary. Elise stood beside him, her fingers twisting in her skirt. What does the king want now? She whispered. Adrian broke the seal and read silently. The messenger waited, still catching his breath. When Adrian finally looked up, his voice was steady. The king offers me a full pardon, recognition for exposing Renard's corruption, and... He hesitated. An offer to return to court as ambassador to Spain. Elise blinked. Ambassador? The messenger nodded quickly. It's an honor, my lord. The king himself dictated the offer. Adrian looked at Elise, his eyes conflicted. And what if I refuse? The messenger seemed startled. Refuse? My lord, it would be an insult to the crown. Adrian folded the letter carefully. Then tell His Majesty I no longer serve the crown. My loyalty belongs elsewhere. The messenger's face paled. I cannot carry such words back to the king. Then carry silence, Adrian said, his tone final. The man hesitated, then bowed again. As you wish, my lord. He turned his horse and galloped back down the road. Elise stared at Adrian. You just turned down everything you were born to have. He smiled faintly. It was never really mine. Titles can be taken. What you've given me cannot. She looked away, tears stinging her eyes. And what if you regret it someday? He stepped closer. Then I'll pray like you do, because miracles seem to find you. Her heart softened, but she said nothing. The wind carried the fading sound of hooves until the road was silent again. They traveled on until the sun dipped low. At dusk, they reached the same village where their story had begun. The little cluster of stone houses surrounded by the green fields of Provence. The drought had ended. The vines shimmered with new leaves, and laughter carried from the square. Elise stopped by the path leading to her old home. I never thought I'd see this place alive again. Adrienne looked around. It's beautiful. You prayed it back to life. No, she said softly. We both did. Her mother's cottage still stood, though the roof had been mended, and flowers grew by the door. When they entered, the air smelled faintly of lavender and warm bread. Her mother was sitting by the hearth, thinner but strong. Elise, she breathed, rising with tears in her eyes. Child, I thought I'd lost you. Elise ran into her arms. I'm home, Mama. Her mother held her tightly, then glanced at Adrienne. And this? Elise smiled. This is the man I told you about, the one who brought the rain. Adrienne bowed slightly. Madame Duval, you raised a woman of remarkable courage. Her mother studied him for a long moment. A count in a farmer's house. I've seen stranger things this year. Sit, both of you, you must be hungry. They shared a simple meal by the fire, bread, cheese, and wine from the first harvest since the drought. Adrienne listened quietly while Elise told her mother of the journey, the danger, and the miracle that had saved them both. When they finished, her mother smiled gently. You've both come through fire and storm. Perhaps now, God will give you peace. That night, Adrienne stepped outside, standing beneath the stars. Elise joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. The sky looks different here, he said. Real, honest. It's the same sky that watched us run, she said. He nodded. Only now, it feels like it's watching us rest. They stood side by side, listening to the crickets. Then Elise asked quietly, What will you do now? Plant, he said simply. The land needs tending. So do I. You? She laughed softly. A nobleman in the fields? He smiled. I think it's time I earned my bread with my hands. She looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. You mean to stay? If you'll have me. Her breath caught. Adrienne, are you certain? Completely. He looked toward the fields, stretching beyond the hills. I want a life that belongs to no one but us. Over the next months he kept his word. Together, they rebuilt the old vineyard her father had once tended. Adrienne worked beside the villagers, learning to plough, to plant, to laugh without fear. He refused titles, gold, or messengers from the court. Sometimes children whispered that the count had become a farmer, and people came from nearby towns to see if it was true. Adrienne would only smile and keep working. Elise often watched him from the doorway, pride filling her heart. When he caught her gaze, he'd say, You're staring again. Because you look happier than any noble in France, she'd reply. And you? He'd ask. She'd smile. I'm happier than any queen. One evening, when the harvest was done, Adrienne walked with her through the rows of vines, now heavy with fruit. The sky glowed orange, and the air smelled of earth and wine. You did this, he said softly. We did this, she corrected. He nodded, then stopped and took her hands. Elise, there's something I've wanted to say since the day you found me on that road. Her pulse quickened. What is it? He hesitated, searching for words. I came to you broken, angry at God, angry at life. But you made me believe again. You turned my punishment into grace. She shook her head. No. You found grace yourself. I found you, he said. And that's the same thing. She laughed softly. You speak like a poet now. Then let me finish my poem. He knelt suddenly, taking her hand. Elise Duval, I've lived half my life in lies, and I don't want another day without truth. Will you marry me? Her breath left her in a rush. Adrienne. He looked up, eyes full of quiet certainty. I have no estate, no servants, no title that matters. Only this land, these hands, and the heart you gave back to me. She covered her mouth, tears glimmering. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. He stood and pulled her into his arms. For a long time, they said nothing. The wind moved through the vines, and somewhere a church bell rang in the distance. Their wedding took place a few weeks later, simple but joyous. The village gathered in the small stone church, the same one where she'd once prayed for rain. Father Armand, older now but smiling, blessed them. Adrien wore plain linen, and Elise carried wildflowers instead of jewels. Her mother stood beside her, proud and tearful. When the vows were spoken, Adrien looked into her eyes and said, "From the day you found me, I've belonged to you." And from that same day, she replied, "My prayers were answered." The villagers cheered as they stepped outside, hand in hand. The sky broke open with sunlight, bright and golden, flooding the square. They spent the evening dancing beneath garlands of leaves. Music filled the air and laughter echoed from every corner. Adrien and Elise danced until the stars came out, their feet bare, their faces glowing. Later, when the crowd faded and the candles burned low, they walked back to the vineyard together. The fields glimmered under the moonlight. "It feels like a dream," Elise said. "Then let's never wake," Adrien replied. They stopped at the old altar by the cottage, the one where she had once knelt and begged for a miracle. The candle she had left there long ago still sat on the stone, melted but unbroken. Adrien lit it again. "For your prayers," he said. "For our miracle," she whispered. They stood in silence, watching the flame dance. The next morning the village stirred early. Children ran through the fields, shouting that the vineyards were glistening with dew, that the fruit smelled sweet and ripe. Elise and Adrien worked beside them, laughing, barefoot in the soil. When the sun reached the horizon, the bells of the church rang again, soft, joyful, and unending. Father Armand's voice carried across the air. "May love and mercy dwell in this valley forever." Elise looked up at the sky, her hands clasped. "It already does." Adrien wiped his brow, smiling. "What are you praying for now?" She looked at him with warmth. "For the world to remember what we learned, that miracles are real when hearts are brave enough to believe." He kissed her forehead. "Then may we keep believing." That night, as they watched the stars from their doorstep, the vines rustled gently in the breeze. A new season had begun, and the land seemed to hum with quiet life. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. The silence between them was full of promise. And when Elise leaned her head against his shoulder, Adrien whispered, "Thank you for saving me." She smiled. We saved each other. Outside, the bell of the church chimed once more, echoing across the valley. Then, faint and sudden from the far road beyond the fields, came the distant sound of another traveller's horse approaching their gate. The sound of hooves drew closer until the dust shimmered in the evening light. Adrien rose from the porch, glancing toward the road. Elise followed, her heart tightening. A rider approached at full speed, his cloak snapping like a flag in the wind. When he reached the gate, he dismounted quickly, bowing with urgency. "Count de Montclair?" Adrien frowned. "You've ridden far. Speak." The man held out a sealed letter. "From Paris, my lord. The king sends his blessing. And a gift." Adrien broke the seal. Elise watched his eyes move across the page. Then he laughed softly, disbelief and relief mixing in his voice. "He's granted us the vineyard." "The vineyard?" she repeated. "The land we work," he said. "He's signed it over to us. No taxes, no claims. He calls it a wedding gift." The messenger smiled. His Majesty said, "Let the man who found faith keep the soil that taught him grace." Elise blinked back tears. "He remembered you." "He remembered us," Adrien said. The messenger bowed again. "There's more. He sends his priest to bless your home and a letter of pardon for all who helped you. The past is buried, my lord." Adrien nodded slowly. "Then tell the king his mercy found fertile ground." The rider smiled and mounted his horse again. "He asked me to say one more thing. He said, 'When rain falls again over Provence, remember that heaven sometimes answers through men.'" As the messenger rode away, Adrien turned to Elise. She stood in the sunlight, her hair loose, her eyes bright with wonder. "Do you realize?" he said quietly. "We're free." She touched his face. "We already were. This just makes it official." They laughed, holding each other as the wind swept through the vines. The bell from the church rang once, slow and deep, as if blessing their joy. That night, the entire village gathered to celebrate. Lanterns hung from every door, and music filled the air. Old men played fiddles, children danced barefoot, and the smell of roasted bread drifted down the street. Adrien poured wine into clay cups, handing one to Elise. "To freedom," he said, She raised hers. To miracles. When the musicians changed tempo, he took her hand. "Dance with me. I can't dance like nobles do," she warned. "Good," he said. "I never liked their way." He led her to the center of the square, their feet moving in time with the simple rhythm. The villagers clapped and cheered, shouting her name and his together. The world spun in light and laughter. "You look happier than the night we wed," he teased. She smiled up at him, "Because tonight feels like the first day of forever." Later, when the music faded and the crowd began to drift away, he led her back to the vineyard. The moon hung full and low, silvering the rows of grapes. "Do you remember the first time you prayed here?" he asked. "I was alone," she said. "Hungry, afraid, and still you believed." "I didn't expect you to be the answer," she said, laughing softly. He took her hands. "Then let me be your answer for all the rest of your prayers." She stepped closer, resting her forehead against his chest. "You already are." They walked between the vines, the earth cool beneath their feet. Fireflies glimmered in the air like tiny sparks of heaven. Adrian stopped near the altar stone, where her old candle still sat, melted but whole. He knelt, lighting it with a flint. The flame caught, flickering gold against the dark. "For every night you prayed alone," he said, "I'll give you 1,000 nights with me beside you." Her voice trembled. "You speak like a poet again." He smiled. "Then listen, Elise, because these are my vows written in the air." She waited, eyes shining. "I'll wake each morning and thank the sky for you. I'll walk beside you through drought or storm. When fear comes, I'll hold it for you, and when hope fades, I'll light it again." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't have to promise all that." "I already have," he said. The wind stirred the candle, but the flame held steady. She leaned into him, her voice low. "And I promise to keep believing for both of us, even when the world forgets how." He brushed her cheek. "It never will, not while you're in it." They stayed there for a long time, wrapped in silence. The vines rustled softly, the candle burned down slowly, and the moon watched over them like a guardian. By dawn, the village bells rang again. The fields glowed gold with morning light. Adrian and Elise walked down to the river, the one that had once nearly taken his life. Now it flowed calm and clear. "It's strange," he said, "how the same river that almost destroyed me feels like peace now." "Maybe that's what faith does," she said. "It turns wounds into water." He laughed. "Then I must be a whole river by now." She squeezed his hand. "Then I'll be the shore that keeps you steady." They sat on the bank, watching the sunlight ripple across the surface. Farmers were already at work in the fields, their laughter floating through the air. The world seemed healed. "Do you think they'll still tell our story someday?" she asked. "If they do," he said, "I hope they start with you. The girl who prayed for rain and brought a man back to life instead." She laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "And if they tell it wrong? Then we'll correct them together." As the morning warmed, they returned to the cottage. Her mother was already awake, kneading bread at the table. She looked up with a smile. "The sun favors you both today." "It feels like it," Elise said. Adrian kissed the older woman's hand. "Thank you for not sending me away when I was half dead and useless." Her mother laughed. "I should thank you instead. You gave my daughter a future." After breakfast, the village children ran to the house, shouting that the governor had arrived. Adrian frowned, but when they stepped outside, they found the man smiling, no soldiers in sight. "I came not as a governor today," he said, "but as a friend. The king asked me to deliver one last thing." He handed them a small wooden box. Inside lay a ring made of simple gold, engraved with 2 vines intertwined. "The royal jeweler made it," the governor said. "His Majesty wanted you to wear it when you harvest your first vintage." Elise stared at it in wonder. "It's beautiful." Adrian slipped it onto her finger. "So are you." The governor chuckled. "You've done what no decree or sword ever could. You gave this land hope again." When he rode away, Adrian turned to her. "Every time I think the story is ending, it begins again." She smiled. "Then let's never stop writing it." The harvest came soon after. For days the village buzzed with life. Music, laughter, the crush of grapes beneath bare feet. Adrian worked beside Elise until sunset each evening, their hands stained purple, their clothes covered in the scent of wine and joy. When the last barrel was sealed, he lifted her hand high. "To the miracle of Provence," he shouted. The crowd cheered. "To the miracle." And then, as the laughter echoed across the valley, the first drops of rain began to fall. Soft, gentle, endless. The people lifted their faces to the sky, laughing. Elise raised her arms, her hair glistening with water. Adrian stood beside her, watching her spin like a girl set free. "You see?" she said, breathless. He never stopped listening. Adrian smiled, pulling her close. No, he only waited until we were ready. They kissed under the rain, slow and certain, while the village bells rang in celebration. That night the world smelled of wet earth and wine. The fields shimmered, the vines glowed with life, and the stars broke through the clouds. In their small cottage, Elise lit a candle on the windowsill. "For the prayers we've already received," she said. Adrian stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "And for the ones still waiting to be answered." She turned to face him. "Do you still believe in miracles?" He smiled. "Every time I look at you," she laughed softly. "You've become very good with words, Count." "Not Count," he whispered. "Just Adrian. Your Adrian." She rested her head against his chest. "Then my heart is home." The rain fell softly outside, steady and warm, washing the land clean once more. As dawn crept over the hills, they stepped outside hand in hand. The sky was clear, the air sweet with promise. The church bells rang again, brighter this time, echoing through the valley like a song. Farmers paused their work to listen. Children laughed and pointed toward the vineyard, where the vines glittered like emeralds in the morning light. Adrian and Elise stood beneath the same sky where everything had begun. He looked at her, and she looked back, smiling the way she had that first night beside the road. "You prayed for a miracle," he said softly. "And heaven sent me you," she replied. He took her hand and kissed it. "Then we've both been heard." The sun rose higher, lighting the valley in gold. The vineyard stretched as far as the eye could see, green, endless, alive. And as the bells continued to ring across the hills of Provence, the man who had once been a fallen count and the woman who had prayed for rain began there forever beneath the open sky. Thank you so much for listening to this story all the way to the end. We hope it moved you as much as it moved us while telling it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment telling us where you're listening from and what you liked the most. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as a show of support. That really motivates us to keep creating and sharing more stories full of emotion and life lessons. And before we go, we want to remind you that an exciting and heartwarming story recommendation will appear on the final screen. If you'd like to enjoy it, just click on the video. Thank you once again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.